Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Great. Well, did we want to let folks into the meeting, or do we have to join something
They're
else?
arriving
Or-
as we speak. Yep.
Oh, very
Yeah.
exciting.
So when we launch the webinar, it automatically opens it up.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Great. Well, should I go ahead and start sharing my screen? Awesome. Actually, let me change up how I'm going to do this. Okay. I think everyone should be able to see the presentation now currently, correct?
Nope.
I don't think you're sharing right now, Lindsay.
Excellent. Thank you. I did not hit the second share button. That would be why.
There we go. Looks great.
Okay. Fantastic. Please let me know if I run into any other technical or sharing issues, which hopefully I won't, but the day is young. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. The State Water Board is hosting this virtual workshop to assist the Central Delta Water Agency with informing reporters on an alternative compliance plan to comply with diversion measurement requirements per Senate Bill 88, now codified in Water Code Section 1840. My name is Lindsay Kameyer, and I'm a Water Resource Control Engineer with the Delta Water Master's Office. I'm joined today by my colleagues John Collins, Lisa Crowley, and Christy Mittal. Molly Williams will help facilitate this meeting. I will cover some background information first and then pass it to Brett Baker with the Central Delta Water Agency to discuss how to use the Delta ACP. This workshop is being recorded and will be posted online later. At the end of this workshop, we will end the recording, but hosts will stick around if you have any questions you would like to ask, but do not want to be recorded. To provide context for our conversation today, I'll start with a brief overview of SB 88 measurement requirements, then move on to specific history about the Delta ACP, and then I'll pass it off to Brett to discuss the Delta ACP website, user registration, and report submission. We will have time for questions throughout the presentation and at the end. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand to be unmuted. I'd like to mention some ground rules to facilitate this meeting. Please ask questions by raising your hand and waiting to be unmuted, or type your question in the Q&A feature, and Molly will help us address those during the presentation. Please keep your comments on point, concise, and specific to the Delta ACP. And lastly, please be respectful of all staff and fellow attendees. Now, we will move on to the content of the workshop. During the last extended drought, there was increased urgency to quantify diversions to better understand what water was used where. There is a common refrain of, "You can't manage what you can't measure." With the passage of SB 88, as I mentioned, now codified in Water Code Section 1840, diverters are required to accurately measure within 10% their diversions and report those diversions on their regular and annual reports, on their regular annual reports. Large diverters of 10,000 acre-feet annually are required to telemeter their diversions to the Water Board. Regulations allow for alternative compliance plans if strict compliance is determined to be infeasible, unreasonably expensive, has unreasonable impacts to public trust uses, or an unreasonable use of water. All diverters in California have the option to be in strict compliance, which means having a measurement device on their diversion structure, or they may pursue an alternative compliance plan. SB 88 passed in 2015. The board adopted emergency regulations implementing the metering requirements in early 2016. The Nature Conservancy, a proponent of SB 88, first reported challenges complying with metering requirements to the Delta Water Master's Office in fall 2016. The Department of Water Resources also experienced serial failures of its meters for land they owned within the legal delta. The Delta Water Master's Office convened a stakeholder group called the Delta Measurement Experimentation Consortium of local delta interests in spring of 2017. Stakeholders include Metropolitan Water District, North, Central, and South Delta Water Agencies, environmental NGOs like the Nature Conservancy and the Freshwater Trust, reclamation districts in the legal delta, and device manufacturers. Over the next several years, they exhaustively tested devices, methods, and data recording and retrieving. They tracked costs, recorded challenges, and brainstormed solutions. After years of testing, including testing over 19 measurement devices and methods, the group could not determine a reliable way to strictly comply with SB 88 measurement requirements. The Delta Water Master found that alternative compliance was needed for most diverters within the legal delta. The consortium decided to pursue alternative compliance using OpenET as the measurement method in fall of 2019. OpenET uses best available science to provide easily accessible satellite-based estimates of evapotranspiration, or ET, to improve water management across the Western United States. OpenET has 6 different ET models that calculate ET and provides an ensemble value of ET by averaging those 6 models. Lastly, I'd like to note that the consortium continues to meet quarterly to discuss progress of the alternative compliance, now branded as the Delta ACP, as well as discuss ongoing efforts to correlate diversions to OpenET consumptive use calculations. As previously noted, regulations allow for alternative compliance plans if strict compliance is determined to be infeasible, unreasonably expensive, has unreasonable impacts to public trust uses, or an unreasonable use of water. The consortium efforts to date proved that there was no reliable way to directly measure diversions in the delta within the required 10% accuracy. We know this because there would be data gaps for more than 10% of the year outside of known problems where the measurement device failed to record a diversion event. Initial estimates of costs borne by tests also indicated that compliance with this regulation was going to be much more expensive than initially estimated by the Water Board and does not provide the necessary accuracy. Minimum standards for an alternative compliance plan are detailed in California Code of Regulations and posted online. There are 11 listed components to an alternative compliance plan. And there are over 360 ACPs, alternative compliance plans, on file on the division's website. So the Delta is not alone in pursuing alternative compliance. The Delta ACP is sponsored by Central Delta Water Agency and South Delta Water Agency, who submitted an alternative compliance plan to the Delta Water Master's Office in December of 2021. And this plan will cover anyone in the legal delta participating in the Delta ACP. The Central and South Delta Water Agencies also finance the creation of the Delta ACP website, which has simplified reporting and will send your reports, which report open ET values as those diverted and beneficially used, to the Water Board. Oh, I apologize, went a little crazy there with the slide advance. And with that, I will now pass it over to Brett Baker to discuss the alternative compliance plan and also lead folks through how to register and submit a report. Brett?
Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, I'm Brett Baker. I'm an attorney at Nomalini, Greeley and McDaniels is our firm here in Stockton, and we administer the Central Delta Water Agency. As an attorney, I just get the legal stuff out of the way first here. I just want to say I'm very happy and excited to present this this API to folks. It's a long time coming, a lot of hard work by a lot of different hands. And as we are dealing with land rights and water rights, we would like to offer you this ability to participate. And there's a lot of good legal language and knowledge embedded in the program itself. But I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that they should get, independent consultation or advice from their own attorney regarding these things. We will have somewhat of a attorney-client relationship as I'm giving you this advice, but it should stop here. The scope of that it ends with this presentation. And yeah, if you have further questions, we're happy to engage with you and discuss how this works and explain it to your attorney if you'd like. So having said that, this is our website. This is going to be our homepage for Delta ACP, and that address, as Lindsay's got it there on the screen, is deltaacp.com. Our web designers optimize this API for performance on Google Chrome as the main browser. It will work on other browsers, I'm told, but we suggest using Google Chrome as you file these reports through the API. So we can go ahead and go to the next one. So when you get there, you'll log in, you can create an account. I guess we can go back to that, but you'll enter your email and a password and create an account. For any additional users that you want to keep in the loop or abreast of any updates that we have, you can also enter additional emails at the bottom of the page there, and they will be added to our email list for updates. So the website itself is still under construction. We apologize for that. It functions just fine, but there's a few, I guess you'd call them, housekeeping issues or just maybe beautification issues. But we have we don't have language on our contact tab on our website yet. But as you can see here on the help tab, my name and email address are prominently displayed, I think, at least 2 or 3 times. And if you have any questions, I would encourage you to reach out to myself at the email there on the screen or the phone number there on the screen. And then we can get you in the loop and in the fold and filing reports. So I just want to go back to that. So this is our help. When you sign in, you'll also be required to agree to terms and conditions of the program. A lot of this language comes out of our about paper document that we have attached. Hopefully we will have a link to have the terms and conditions available for you to print off and review in PDF form. So we can go to the next page here. So this is the registration that I had referred to earlier. If you're new to the website, you can register. If you forgot your password, it'll let you change it, send you an email and have you change your password, much like every other website we log into each day. So once you're creating your account, you'll enter your email address, your first and last name. The organization is optional. You'll create a unique password. This is your own password. I don't know that there are any special character limitations or requirements, but they do have to match. And then you're going to click here where it says click here and take a look, and please read the terms and conditions for participation in the Delta ACP. We wanted to force that folks to go there. We weren't able to do that, but like I said, we're going to have a copy of that available for download on the website as well for your records. So you'll have to agree to participate, and then you can sign in, and it'll take you to your dashboard, which is that next slide. And prior to having submitted in your reports, this is what your dashboard is going to look like. It's going to be blank. You're going to either click here or submit a new report, click that green box, and it will take you to the next page where you will input your water right ID and your reporting identifier. Now, we typically refer to this as a password, but that's the 6-digit alphanumeric reporting identifier that the state board issues you and reminds you of each year when they give you your notice in the mail to remember to file your supplemental statement of diversion and use. So this is kind of where the rubber meets the road in participating in DACP. And I should say that everybody in the Delta and our goals in establishing this program were that we wanted to make this available and open to everybody in the Delta, legal Delta, to participate. The technical side of that is that we have to have a geospatial definition or a polygon or of your place of use associated with your statement. We created each of those in ArcGIS. We used ArcGIS because it's pretty much the industry standard for global mapping. Each of the counties in the Delta uses ArcGIS to display and define parcel boundaries. So we were able to upload copies of that data and overlay it when we drew our polygons. So some folks will notice that when they go into the next step to validate their polygon, that it may not look exactly like your field or you thought your field looked like. But when we drew these, considering that your water right is a property right and extends to the 4 corners of your property, we did our best to draw these in a fashion that covered the entire property. And then I will go through the protocols that we followed in excluding areas that we're not going to be consuming or we don't want to account for any consumptive use in those areas. But we excluded railways, roadways, waterways, large buildings, things of that nature. So yeah, if your polygon is not in the system, if you do not have a predefined polygon, you'll get this error. It'll tell you, yeah, we recognize that statement number as being in RMS and that's the correct password, but you're not in the Delta ACP geodatabase yet. So if that's your situation, please contact me. We can help you get a polygon developed and put into the system, or we can help direct whomever you might like to draw your polygon for you, but you will have to provide a polygon to participate. That's Michael used to refer to that as the cost of admission or the ticket for entry. So yeah, we're happy to help, and we'll get to more of that later. So if you enter it and it's already in the geodatabase, you'll see the next slide.
I think that we have one question in the Q&A.
Go ahead.
Molly, would you be able to read it?
Yeah, someone just asked if we can provide the link to the Delta ACP, and I can just pop that into the chat for everyone to see.
Fantastic, thanks.
So this is a spatially defined place of use. And as you'll notice, what I was referring to earlier here, you'll see the blue line on the southern boundary of this field as it leaves the levee. It looks like it catches a little bit of the alfalfa growing in the field next to it. Well, that is the parcel boundary that we drew. So like I said, it may look a little goofy to you, but I would encourage you to go back and take a look at your assessor parcel map or see what where your property actually begins and ends. And then on the water side here, you can see the the boundary was drawn from the landward crown of the levee in. So that's how we handled waterways. And if they were in the middle of the boundary of the property, we would have excluded them. So that's a good looking polygon to me. And so we can proceed to the next step. And this is a PDF, or this is a document that I provided back in April when we were meeting with DMEC members and going over creating a shapefile, a polygon, a place of use. So these are the protocols. They're still on the Delta Water Masters website. I'd be happy to provide them for you. The one thing that I noticed going through there is that I didn't really discuss uploading or layering in the county parcel boundaries, but that is one critical aspect to drawing an accurate place of use. So we can provide that for you as well. Next slide. So then if you're into the meat of the coconut, as I think Dan Jr. would refer to it, now we're going to get to filling out our report. And like I said, I encourage you to customize, simplify, add, delete, whatever specific language you find in this report that you may or may not want to include. You can modify it, like I said, but you should also consult with your attorney when you do that. So this is the top of the page. As you scroll down, we'll go to the next page. You're going to have an opportunity to check just as in RMS, check the claims and types of claims and rights that you're relying on for your diversion of surface water. This would be for my folks in the North Delta Water Agency that I help. In this box here, under other, I would add something like plus 1982 North Delta Water Agency contract. Some folks might want to call it a supply contract, but I prefer to put it there when I do them for my folks in the North Delta. You're also going to have the option to change or make more accurate the year your diversion commenced, but that will be auto-populated from your prior year's submission. Go ahead. So then we're going to get to use of water. If you click on that more info, it'll have a pop-up on our website. I don't have the language there for you, but it basically explains what we're reporting, what ETA or ETO and is, and what data is being promulgated in the section just below this. Also, there's multiple crop types. We've always been puzzled as to what the utility of this is in the report. So yeah, if you had multiple crops, you might want to select that. We would just leave it as no. And then for your primary irrigation method, again, don't know if that's required information for the board, but you can click the drop down, scroll up to the blank if you don't have a primary irrigation method that you want to report. You can go to the next slide. So this is one other issue, cannabis. If you're growing cannabis, you're not eligible to participate in the Delta ACP. So I don't know if there's any more needs to be said about that. So here's where the numbers are. This is the exciting part. These numbers are auto-populated, and the API queries this information from the OpenET website. You will not have an option or the ability to change these numbers. If you do have an issue with the figures they're giving you, you can contact us. If you have more, you think there's something wrong, we'll definitely look into it. But we're not here to change the the program. We're accepting of OpenET's accuracy in their data, and we're not going to change that. So do you also have the ability to comply with SB 88 in one of the various other fashions that Lindsay had mentioned? I believe there's 400 and some odd other ACPs out there. You could always start your own. So the diversion and measurement, those will be auto-selected to say I'm not required and I do not measure. And then there's that 12/21/21 date of when we submitted that ACP, a copy of which is on the Delta Water Masters website. Transfers, we didn't have any transfers here, don't have a supply contract here. That's, if you do, you're going to have to account for that somehow. Conservation, we've selected yes, and we've also included some language that will be auto-populated in the box to both in the conservation box and in the additional comment box that address conservation under Water Code section 1011. So that first box in this screen here will likely have some language in it. And if you read it, you'll notice that it's the same paragraph that's in the bottom of the additional remarks box. Yeah, so next slide. So you may have used conjunctive groundwater use. You can change that to yes. You may have conjunctively used groundwater. You can change that to yes if that's the case. We're not claiming that we're using recycled water or wastewater for this report, nor do I for any of my other reports. But so yeah, next page. This is the language I referred to earlier. This is the boilerplate additional remarks. We have spent agonizing hours and arguments between attorneys over this language here. And eventually we just gave up and went with Dan Jr.'s best recommendation. No, I'm just, this has been language that we've modified and spent a lot of time going over. So like I said, take a look at it, read it, make sure that it applies to your specific instance, your conditions on the ground. Like I said, you can add or modify this in any way, shape, or form. You may even want to delete some of this stuff if it's not, if it doesn't pertain to you. And then we get to the report contact information. This may be, if you're filing multiple reports, the most time-consuming aspect. Is punching in your name and your email and address and phone number in relation to the water right. So yeah, you're going to sign that and submit it, and then the website will take you back to your dashboard, or they'll say thank you, tell you thank you, and then you return to your dashboard, and you should get a little green box that pops up on your dashboard like this here. And if you notice, the status is pending, and it's a little blue box. Our programmers, they worked closely with folks at the State Water Board, and it was requested that we not shove all these through as they were submitted, that we process them on the hour from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So this will be put into a batch if you're doing it prior to 5 p.m. and they will run on the hour, every hour thereafter for those 3 hours. And you can, submit your report, go home, get some rest, come back the next day. And this little blue box here should change to green and say submitted. And then you will be able to access a copy, a complete bona fide copy on the RMS website. You will also, prior to that, be able to click this little red button here that says PDF. And as I said, if you're using Chrome, you'll get a very nice looking PDF of your report. It'll basically look like those screenshots you just saw of the website, and the comments in the boxes won't be there, but everything else will be, and you can keep that for your records. Like I said, once it's submitted, you'll be able to access the the legit record from the RMS webpage. One little kink there is that if you are using Firefox or some other browser, it displays entirely differently. So yeah, like I said, stick with Chrome to the extent you can. And then I think that's about it. We're ready for questions if anybody's got them.
There's one in the chat right now from David Ogilvy that says, do these auto-populated numbers assume full soil profile and no plant water stress?
I don't know how to answer that question really. What do you mean full soil profile? So yeah, this is kind of more of a technical question. I would defer generally to my counterparts at OpenET, but I would like to think that it's going to read the evaporative transpiration from that plant, and whether it's stressed or not, I don't know if that changes the signature on the near infrared spectrum, but I don't believe so. But that's a good question for somebody at OpenET.
Hi, Brett, I could answer that if you don't mind.
Yeah, perfect.
OpenET does use in some of the models a soil water balance model. So in that, we are taking in soil information for the region. So that is expected.
Great. Hopefully that answers that question. Just as a reminder, you can either use the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask a question, or you can type your question into the Q&A box. So it looks like the Q&A box has another from Max Mutter. Do these numbers get automatically populated into ERIMs?
When you submit the report from the API, it will go into RMS, report management system, and that will be reflected in ERIMs once that is filed. Yes.
It sounds like that is automated.
That is absolutely what we're doing here. Yes, you're going to have a report, and those numbers from the report that you see on the screen will be the ones that wind up in the box in the RMS report that you get.
Okay, cool. And I had a similar question. Sounds like that's covered.
Yeah, so
All right.
once you submit the report on the Delta ACP website, there's no need to go into the ERIM system. You definitely can, and then you should see the exact same thing that you submitted. It's something that Brett and I tested, in addition to Will, like multiple times, and we confirmed that all the numbers that were getting submitted from the Delta ACP would all match at what was reflected in the RMS ERIMS website.
And then I see Matt Brady's question about licenses. So licenses are not currently being incorporated into the ACP. Without getting too far into the weeds, licenses are a little bit a different animal. The boundaries of those licenses live in a file cabinet at the State Water Resources Control Board on the 14th floor or something like that. And we did not have the time nor the bandwidth nor the manpower to get copies of all of those licenses. We did not try to draw those out. One of the key tenets we were following is that we don't want any overlap or double accounting. That was kind of one of the main impetus for developing this ACP, was to eliminate the double counting of diversion figures. So we suggest to, and I have suggested to my clients, to follow the consensus strategy from the Delta Water Master's Office and make a simple reference to the water being used in this place of use is reported under that statement, as opposed to, putting numbers, actual whatever figures in the license report. And then I see another question. What is the cost structure for using Delta ACP? So for folks inside the Central and South Delta Water Agency, they've already paid for this. They fronted and the development costs. And so we did simple math with Michael George and wanted to spread that cost out to all other participants. So anybody not within the boundaries of the Central and South Delta and has currently paid all of their assessments will be charged a fee of $1.20 per acre to participate in DACP. That was at the request of our board. They would like to recoup some of the funding that they put into the program for the development.
Okay, and just let us know in either through the Q&A or by raising your hand if you have follow-up questions to any of the answers. And it looks like George Hartman has their hand up. George, you should get a notification asking you to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for the presentation, Brad, and thank you, ladies, for all your hard work. I've got a couple of questions, Brad. One is, we all know that the amount shown is the amount used, or the amount diverted is not the amount used. And so, from my standpoint, the only thing that matters, if anything matters, is the amount the crops use. So is there a problem by continuing with this notion of the amount diverted?
Well, George, if you look, and I'm sorry for not mentioning this earlier, the report, when those figures are auto-populated, those figures are the same in the amount directly diverted column and the amount used column. So this, go ahead.
I saw that. I saw that.
Okay. So we are going to be reporting that information both under used and diverted. And I'm sorry if I don't catch the second part of your question. I'm not sure. Yes, go ahead.
Well, no, I just, I want to make sure that that isn't a problem, because when I was doing reports before, I was using your spreadsheet or Central Delta spreadsheet, and I was calculating the amount diverted using a multiplier, and that was different than the amount used.
Yeah.
So I don't want to fall into a trap somewhere, and I don't think we are. I just want to understand the difference. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think we're falling into a trap either. Michael was very accepting of this concept that that is the only number that matters. And so I think that's the only number that we're providing because it is the only relevant number, George. But I don't believe that I cannot speak on behalf of the state board, but I don't believe they're going to come in force against folks for diverting water in excess of their consumptive use of their crops, unless it's unreasonable in some fashion. But like I said, not speaking on behalf of the state board.
So my ask would be to delete the column that says amount directly diverted, because
We're
what
not
we're
going to do
getting
that,
from
George. No, we're not going to do that. That's fine. And maybe we should discuss this somewhere else, maybe offline. But that's not going to happen. We're not presenting this alternative compliance plan for input at this point in time. This is, if you would like to participate, you can participate. If you want to create your own alternative compliance plan, you're more than welcome to do so. And we're not going to be making any sort of massive manipulations to the system at this point in time.
okay, I've got nothing more to say to you.
So also to kind of key into that a bit, as Brett mentioned, this was an acceptable way to report per Michael George, the previous Delta Water Master. And the decision to put in the direct diverted plus amount used and have those be the same was because there really isn't a great correlation between consumptive use and the amount directly diverted currently. That's something that the consortium is still investigating to see if there is. And also the concern was if in our system, you didn't put any amount indirectly diverted, that then information about the consumptive use in the delta might not necessarily be captured, because many people, when looking at the data, will focus on the amount diverted and not consider the amount used. So the reason for adding them in both columns was to make sure that when different people were analyzing and looking at the data, that they could see values in both those columns and account for the needs of the delta.
Thanks.
Okay, so not seeing any other hands or questions in the Q&A box right now. Any other lingering questions out there?
And like I said, more than happy to answer any questions you have offline, by email, but over the phone. Feel free to contact us. This is a work in progress and we're getting closer to perfect all the time.
Do you have a slide with your contact info on it?
We do, it's the about slide.
Just throw that up and put it in the chat.
Here, I'll put it in chat.
All right, looks like George Hartman just put his hand up again. George, you can go ahead and speak.
Yes, I just have a question. Are you guys working on finding a way to take return flows into account?
I don't know how we would take those into account measuring consumptive use of crops, George.
Well, I'll call you and explain it to you, okay?
Excellent. Yeah, my number and my email address are in the chat box, so you got them. So anybody has any questions, feel free to call.
All right, looks like there's no lingering questions. Lindsay, would you like to close this out?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you everyone for attending and participating in this workshop about the Delta ACP and the opportunity for alternative compliance. As Brett mentioned, please contact him with questions you have specifically about the Delta ACP and participating in it, and also ensuring any type of shapefile uploads or usage to make sure you can participate. We appreciate everyone's time and attention to this. We will post a recording on our website later, and we welcome any questions folks have and look forward to working with everyone in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.